Buyers are often confused on the difference between a deposit and a down payment. I'm going to discuss the differences today, and we're starting now. Hi, I'm Lisa Salt with Vernon Salt Fowler, and please make sure to subscribe to our channel here as we're posting new videos every single week, and we wouldn't want you to miss out. And this week we're talking about one of the things that we realtors often don't explain very well to buyers, and that is the difference between a deposit and a down payment. Let's start with a down payment. A down payment is the amount of your own money that you put towards the price of a home, and it's usually talked about as a percentage of the purchase price. So you would say something like, I have 5% down, or I have 10% down, or 25%, meaning that you would come up with the 5, 10, or 25% of the funds to purchase the property, and then the bank or the lender, whoever you're going to use, will be supplying the rest of the funds. Putting down more cash up front reduces the amount of money you need to borrow, so more down payment means that you'll have a lower monthly payment, and then if you put less down, it means you'll have a higher monthly payment. Alternatively, a deposit is good faith money that is put down by the buyer upon a successful agreement of purchase and sale for a home. This is usually expressed in dollars, so it could be $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, whatever is negotiated between the buyer and the seller. These funds then form a part of your down payment, which then forms part of your purchase price. So in a nutshell, the difference is the deposit is part of your down payment, and then your down payment in turn is part of the purchase price of the house. Let's look at an example. So for a $500,000 home, if you're putting 5% down, then 5% of $500,000 is $25,000, and that's the grand total of your down payment. That's how much you're going to need at the end of the day on completion date to buy this property. Now, when you write the offer on the home, you'll be asked by the realtor for a deposit, let's say $10,000. Could be more, could be less. Again, that's part of the negotiations. You would submit your $10,000 deposit either with your offer or within a certain time frame of the offer, and that $10,000 will sit in the real estate company's trust account until such time as you pay for your house. Then when you pay for your house on your completion date, you will then come up with the balance of that $25,000 down payment, so another $15,000 because the first $10,000 deposit has already been paid into trust. Then the rest of the house money, the 95%, or in this example it would be $475,000, will come from your lender. If the buyer decided to offer the seller as large a deposit as they possibly could, maybe they were in a multiple offer situation, they could offer their whole down payment as a deposit if they chose. Even though the seller really has no right to the deposit until the completion date, in most cases anyways, it still shows that the buyer is uber serious if they offer a big deposit up front. Now, this is an oversimplification. There's other costs associated with purchasing a house, and so these numbers aren't going to work out exactly as I've said here. You will still have to come up with money for things like your CMHC insurance premium, either that or they're added onto your mortgage, home inspections, property transfer tax unless you qualify for an exemption, title insurance, etc. However, for the purposes of explaining the difference between a deposit and a down payment, this is a good example. There are a few more things you should know about deposits, and one is that if your deposit is in trust upon acceptance or within, say, 24 to 48 hours of acceptance, your deposit is refundable to you if you do not remove your conditions. For example, if you aren't able to obtain financing and you have a condition on your offer that states subject to financing, then the deposit should be returned to you if in fact you can't get your financing. However, one thing you should know is that this isn't automatic. Because the real estate company holds your deposit as a stakeholder, what that means is the deposit cannot be released to either party without the consent of both parties. Therefore, the seller must consent for you to have your deposit back. And you, as a buyer, are required to use your best efforts to satisfy your subjects. So if the seller feels you haven't used your best efforts and feels you can get financing and you are just, in fact, using that financing condition as a way to get out of the deal, then the seller may not sign the release of the deposit. This can definitely get messy, and everyone will need to get independent legal advice. However, if you've used your best efforts and you can't obtain financing and you can prove it, then you should have no issue getting your deposit back. If your contract of purchase and sale is written where your deposit is due upon final subject removal, you shouldn't have this issue, although on the other hand, that could be the one thing that tips the scales in another direction in a multiple offer scenario. Because from a seller's perspective, having the deposit in hand is better than having it upon final subject removal. This is where it gets complicated, and it's always best to ask your real estate professional for advice on this. This is as opposed to a down payment, which you will never have that issue because the down payment isn't due until completion date. If you're trying to save up a down payment, be sure to watch our video on 8 creative ways to save for a down payment. The link is above and below. And if you're ready to get started with buying your first or maybe your next home, be sure to contact us and just add salt.
Just add salt.